magical creation? What is the purpose of his teaching? The Lord. No difference or distinction can be apprehended between the Tathagata and his magical creation. For without difference are the Tathagata and his magical creation. And why? Because that deed which the Tathagata does, that his magical creation does. Subhuti. Is it, then, when there is magical creation does its work? The Lord. It does so, Subhuti. The Tathagata that the Subhuti. Or is it when there is not Tathagata that the magical creation does its work? The Lord. Let us assume that with calm determination the Tathagata, without apprehending the bodhisattva, had conjured up a tathagata-frame, and then gone to final nirvana. That magical creation had, then, for up to an aeon done a Buddha's work. Therefore, after having been predicted, that bodhisattva, that great being would be called one who has won final nirvana. Nevertheless that magical creation undergoes neither production nor parinirvana. It is thus that the bodhisattva should course in the perfection of wisdom, i.e. with the firm belief that all dharmas are like magical creations. The non-purity of his acceptance of offerings. Subhuti. If there is no difference between a magical creation and a tathagata, how can there be a perfect purity of donations? For there are beings desirous of merit, desirous of nirvana, who establish for a tathagata a donation, which never again becomes extinct until they have all entered nirvana in the realm of nirvana which leaves nothing behind. Can just so also for the magical creation a donation be established which never again becomes extinct until all the donors have entered nirvana in the realm of nirvana which leaves nothing behind? The Lord. The dharmic fitness by which the Tathagata becomes worthy of the donations of the world with its gods, men, and asuras, by that very same dharmic fitness also the magical creation becomes worthy of them. But let us leave aside the gifts established for the Tathagata and his magical creations. If, Subhuti, any son or daughter of good family will lovingly attend to the Tathagata, they all will, when they have reached the limit of this wholesome route, make an end of ill. Leaving aside the loving attention. If a son or daughter of good family has attended to the Tathagata and honored him by hurling a flower into the air, they all will, before having reached the limit of that wholesome route, make an end of ill. Leaving aside the loving attention and the flower in space, if any son or daughter of good family pay homage to the Buddha, they all will gradually make an end of ill. So greatly profitable indeed is the donation established for the Tathagata, so greatly advantageous. By this method also should one know that there is no difference between the Tathagata and his magical creation, if the dharmic nature 30 of dharmas is taken as the standard. The disturbances of his practices. It is thus that a bodhisattva should course in perfect wisdom, having entered into the dharmic nature of dharmas. And that dharmic nature of dharmas should not be disturbed by saying, "This is perfect wisdom, this is the dharmic nature of perfect wisdom," and so for the other 5 perfections, and for all dharmas. Subhuti. If the dharmic nature of all dharmas should not be disturbed, has it, then, not been disturbed by the Tathagata when he has pointed out dharmas as form, to consciousness? Or when he has pointed out dharmas as inner and outer, as wholesome and unwholesome, with and without outflows, worldly and supramundane, common and uncommon, conditioned and unconditioned? Has not thereby the dharmic nature of dharmas been disturbed? The Lord. No indeed, Subhuti. Through names and signs have I pointed out these dharmas, have I indicated them, so as to introduce others to them. But the dharmic nature of dharmas has not thereby been disturbed. Subhuti. If names and signs are used for the sake of introducing others to the dharmas named, how then can dharmas which are obviously nameless and signless, be verbally expressed through names and signs? The second discrimination of the subject. In general, the Lord. Verbal expression does not necessarily imply a settling down in names and signs. Only with reference to suffering do I use verbal expressions, not for the settling down in name and sign. For a Tathagata, or his disciple, does not settle down in name and sign. If name could settle down in name, sign in sign, emptiness in emptiness, the signless in the signless, the wishless in the wishless, suchness in suchness, the reality limit in the reality limit, the dharma element in the dharma element, the unconditioned in the unconditioned, then the Tathagata, or his disciples, would settle down in name or sign. But since all dharmas are mere words, they do not abide in them. It is thus that a bodhisattva, having taken his stand on mere words and signs, should course in perfect wisdom, but not settle down in it. Subhuti. If all dharmas are mere words and signs, what is the point of a bodhisattva's raising his thought to enlightenment? And why should he experience the manifold misfortunes of the karma formations? Why go on the pilgrimage of a bodhisattva, and give various gifts, guard morality, to develop wisdom, course in emptiness, to fulfill the great friendliness and the great compassion? The Lord. As Subhuti has asked, if thus all dharmas 31 are but names and signs, what is the point of a bodhisattva's going on his pilgrimage? It is just because everything conditioned is mere name and sign. And those names are empty of names, those signs are empty of signs, that a bodhisattva, coursing on his pilgrimage, reaches the knowledge of all modes, and then turns the wheel of dharma, thereby leading beings to nirvana through the three vehicles. But of that name or sign no production, passing away or alteration can be conceived. The bewilderment about the knowledge of all modes. Subhuti. Knowledge of all modes, you say, O Lord? The Lord. So I do, Subhuti. Subhuti. The Tathagata has spoken of the knowledge of all modes, the knowledge of the modes of the path, and all knowledge. What is the difference, what the distinction, between these three kinds of omniscience? The Lord. The knowledge of all modes belongs to the Tathagata, the knowledge of the paths to the bodhisattvas, the great beings, and all knowledge of the disciples and pratyekabuddhas. Subhuti. What is the reason for this? The bewilderment concerning all knowledge. The Lord. Everything that there is, both inner and outer dharmas, that has been cognized by the disciples and pratyekabuddhas, but not all the paths, and not in all aspects. As Subhuti has asked. The bewilderment concerning the knowledge of the paths. For what reason does the knowledge of the modes of the path belong to the bodhisattvas, the great beings? The bodhisattva, the great being, should produce and cognize all paths. The paths of the disciples and pratyekabuddha, and those of the bodhisattvas, those paths should be fulfilled, and through them should be done what ought to be done on them. But the reality limit should not be penetrated. Subhuti. Why should a bodhisattva, who ought to fulfill the Buddha path, not realize the reality limit? The Lord. The bodhisattva should not realize the reality limit without having completely purified his Buddha field and matured beings. The bewilderment concerning the path. Subhuti. Should then a bodhisattva, having stood in the path, realize the reality limit? The Lord. No, Subhuti. Subhuti. Having stood in the no path? The Lord. No, Subhuti. Subhuti. Having stood in both path and non-path? The Lord. No, Subhuti. Subhuti. Having stood in neither path nor no path? The Lord. No, Subhuti. Subhuti. How then can a bodhisattva actually realize the reality limit? The Lord. What do you think, Subhuti, have you, by having stood in the path, freed your thought from the outflows without further clinging? Subhuti. No, O Lord. The Lord. Or by having stood in the no path, or in both path and no path, or in neither path nor no path? Subhuti. No, O Lord. My thought has not been freed from the outflows without further clinging in so far as I am one who has stood anywhere. But it has been freed in so far as I have stood nowhere. The Lord. Just so a bodhisattva who has stood nowhere should realize the reality limit. And as to the term knowledge of all modes, it is through one single mode that one speaks of that, i.e. through the mode of calm. Moreover, Subhuti, all the modes, tokens, and signs by which dharmas are indicated have been thoroughly understood by the Tathagata. Therefore one speaks of the knowledge of all modes. Subhuti. Again, concerning the three kinds of omniscience, the knowledge of all modes, the knowledge of the paths, and all knowledge, is there some differentiation as to the forsaking of the defilements in respect of them? In the sense that this one has a forsaking with, and that one a forsaking without remainder? The Lord, there is no such differentiation in the forsaking of the defilements, but the Tathagatas forsake not only the